his voice cracking. "She's trying to kill her. Get her out." "You're wrong, David," Elena screamed back, digging her heels into the expensive marble floor. "She doesn't need a doctor. She needs to see the mess. Let me show her the mess." David didn't listen. He slammed the bedroom door shut. But just before it closed, Elena threw something. It skidded across the floor and hit David's shoe. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't medicine. It was an ugly, chipped ceramic bowl that looked like it had been glued back together by a child. David looked down at the broken bowl, and for the first time in 14 days, the billionaire stopped breathing, because he recognized that bowl. To understand why a billionaire is crying over a glued-together plate, and why his daughter is starving herself to death, we have to rewind the clock. We have to go back to the moment the silence started. 14 days ago, the Vance penthouse was perfect. That was the problem. It was a world of white marble, glass walls, and sharp angles. There was no dust. There was no clutter. And there was absolutely no noise. Since David's wife died 3 years ago, he had dealt with his grief by controlling everything. If he could keep the house perfect, maybe he could stop his life from falling apart again. It was dinner time. David was sitting at the head of the long table, wearing a $3,000 suit, taking a conference call. He wasn't eating. He was working. He was always working. 7-year-old Sophia sat miles away at the other end. She was eating spaghetti. She was trying to be quiet. She knew the rules. Don't disturb Daddy. Be efficient. Be perfect. But Sophia was 7. Her hand slipped. It happened in slow motion. The fork spun. The noodle flew. A single drop of bright red tomato sauce landed on the table. It splashed onto a white blueprint David was reading. The room went silent. David didn't hit her. He never hit her. But he did something worse. He snapped. The stress of the billion-dollar merger, the grief he buried, the exhaustion, it all exploded. He stood up and swept his arm across the table. Crash. Sophia's plate hit the floor. The expensive china shattered into 100 pieces. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet house. "Look what you did," David roared, looming over her. "Why is it always a mess? Can't we have one dinner without a disaster? You ruin everything." Sophia didn't cry. She went completely still. She looked at the red sauce on the white floor. She looked at the shattered plate. She looked at her father's terrifying face. In that moment, a 7-year-old's brain made a simple, terrifying calculation. When I eat, I make a mess. When I make a mess, Daddy turns into a monster. If I want Daddy to love me, I have to stop making messes. So, I have to stop eating. The next morning, Sophia skipped breakfast. David didn't notice. He was on the phone. That night, she hid her dinner in a napkin. David didn't notice. He was looking at his iPad. By day 4, the circles under her eyes were dark purple. By day 7, she fainted at her private school. That's when the war began. David treated Sophia's hunger like a business problem. He threw money at it. He hired the best pediatricians. They ran tests. "There's nothing physically wrong," they said. "She's refusing food." David fired the doctors. He hired a Michelin-star private chef. The chef made chocolate soufflés with gold leaf. He made truffle mac and cheese. He made Wagyu sliders that cost more than a car. They brought the trays to Sophia's room. The smell was heavenly, but Sophia would just pull her knees to her chest and shake her head. She looked at the food with terror. To her, that wasn't food. It was a trap. It was a potential mess waiting to happen. David would pace the room, furious. "Why won't you eat? I buy you the best. I give you everything. Why are you doing this to me?" He didn't see that every time he yelled, she shrank further into her bed. He was proving her theory right. I am a problem. Enter Elena. Elena was the new housekeeper. She had been hired strictly to clean. Invisible, the agency told her. Mr. Vance likes invisible staff, but Elena saw everything. She saw the fear in Sophia's eyes when a fork clattered. She saw how David wiped down the counters the second a drop of water touched them. Elena came from a house that was loud, messy, and full of love. She knew that a sterile home is just a prison with nice furniture. She realized that Sophia wasn't sick. She was scared. On the night of day 13, the doctors gave David an ultimatum. If she doesn't eat by tomorrow morning, we have to put in a feeding tube. We have to hospitalize her." David collapsed in the hallway, weeping. He felt helpless. While he cried, Elena went to work. But she didn't go to the kitchen. She went to the basement trash room. She spent 4 hours digging through 2 weeks of garbage. Her hands were cut by glass. She smelled like refuse. But finally, she found them. The shards, the pieces of the china plate David had smashed 2 weeks ago. The plate that started the silence. Elena took the pieces to her small room. She didn't have special tools. She had super glue and a little bottle of gold paint she used for crafts. She sat there for hours, gluing the sharp, jagged pieces back together. It wasn't perfect, it was lumpy, the cracks were visible. But she painted the cracks with gold. She didn't try to hide the brokenness. She highlighted it. She cooked a simple meal. Not lobster, not steak. She made cheap, boxed spaghetti with red sauce. The same meal Sophia was eating the night everything went wrong. She put the spaghetti into the ugly glued-together bowl, and she marched upstairs to save a life. We are back in the present. The guards are dragging Elena. David is staring at the glued bowl at his feet. "It's the plate," David whispered. "She thinks she has to be perfect for you," Elena shouted from down the hall, breaking free from the guards. "Show her, David. Show her that it's okay to be broken." David looked at the bowl. He looked at the ugly gold cracks holding it together. He realized he had been trying to fix his daughter with perfection, when he should have been fixing her with permission. He picked up the bowl. His hands were shaking. He opened the bedroom door. Sophia lay in the bed, eyes closed, pale as a sheet. David walked over. He didn't sit in the chair. He sat right on the pristine, white $10,000 carpet. "Sophie," he choked out. She opened her eyes, weakly. "Look," David said. "Look what I have." He showed her the broken bowl. Her eyes widened. She recognized it. "It's broken," David said, tears streaming down his face. "It's broken and ugly, and Daddy still loves it." Then David did the impossible. He reached into the bowl with his bare hand. He grabbed a handful of spaghetti, dripping with red sauce, and he dropped it, splat, right onto the perfect white carpet. A huge, red, greasy stain. Sophia gasped. She flinched, waiting for the yell, waiting for the explosion. But David didn't yell. He laughed. He took another handful and smeared it on his expensive suit shirt. "Look, Sophie," he sobbed, smiling through the tears. "I made a mess. A huge mess. And I'm not mad. I promise, baby, I'm not mad." The air in the room changed. The terror evaporated. Sophia looked at the stain. Then she looked at her dad, covered in sauce, looking ridiculous and human. Slowly, her trembling hand reached out. She touched the ugly glued-together bowl. She took a noodle. She put it in her mouth. She swallowed. Then she took another. And another. David sat there on the ruined carpet, holding the bowl while his daughter ate for the first time in 2 weeks. He realized then that he had almost lost his daughter to perfection. The house was never quiet again after that day. There were stains on the rugs. There were toys in the hall. And every Sunday, they ate spaghetti. Because David learned the truth. Love isn't about keeping things clean. It's about being willing to sit in the mess with the people you love.